Hey everybody, my name is Phil.
I'm Erika.
And today we're watching Euphoria, Season 101, Episode 2. Let's dive in.
Oh, a therapist?
Probably, yeah.
I don't know. Okay, why'd you...
Ooh. Okay. Well, I'm glad they put these two episodes together.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
I wonder where, like, in the planning it was to do these episodes. Like, if it was always in the plans to explain, or if they heard feedback from the audience and then put this out before season 2, just to, like, explain and give it a bit more depth. I don't know, because, like,
you think so? Because I feel like it kind of works seamlessly. Like, if we had watched these before season 2, it would have been so seamless, and it actually would have answered some questions. Well, maybe not questions, but just adding more context.
But it also, like, begs the question, like, why not just put those into the beginning of season 2, right?
Well, I mean, you can see why they're special.
I guess. Well, yeah, no. Yeah, the first one especially, like, you can't put that on HBO. Like, for, like, in, like, primetime HBO. It's not exciting enough, right?
Okay, I guess.
Yeah, it's like, it's way too much talking. It's way too, like, it's not enough stuff happening. So, like, I guess, like, these might have given them a little bit more... Yeah, this episode too, same thing. It's not enough action. But I guess this platform allows them a little bit more freedom to do that storytelling in the way that feels a bit more natural, because the one thing about both those episodes is that they were like a lot of uncut monologue-y type dialogue that feels like a real person delivering it, as opposed to it being as succinct and as punchy as possible, which is like what most TV is. Like, really great writing, but it's like very, we have to do it within this 22 minutes and like that kind of thing, right? Whereas here,
move it along.
Here it's like, you're really in a session. You're like, let me complete my thought. Let me have natural pauses. And I think that's tough to put on like a network show. But yeah, it definitely does add a lot of depth to the decisions and stuff made.
The story.
Yeah, we were, well, I don't know, I honestly forget, but like I was really frustrated with Jules at the end of season 1. Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
And
this would have been helpful to watch right after.
Yeah, for sure.
I think we were frustrated with Jules throughout season 2. Like, well, if you hadn't known
that, I guess. And maybe that does kind of play into just the world as well. If you don't know the full story of anybody that you're looking at, right? And there's like other stuff going on, and you'll only ever see what they show you. And it's like, okay, if we only ever saw season 1 and season 2, we'd never know all this that was going on in her life. So maybe like as a artistic tool, that really does work really well.
Yeah, and I think they did a really good job of just even though the audience, we've seen all of season 1, this episode does a good job of letting the audience take a step back and get to know her from like this therapist perspective, where like she's trying to put together the pieces, like okay, so now you're saying this, and like she's like saying all these things being put together, even though it's really just scratching the surface. Yeah. And when we take that step back, it's like when you're in it in season 1, you don't realize how much she's going through. Because you're just like in the action, you're distracted by other storylines. Like,
if anything, you're kind of like upset with her. Like, why are you beating him at this time? Why are you like being so reckless? Why are you making these decisions and stuff like that? But
sure. But yeah, like in this episode, you take a step back and you're like, wow, like she went through a lot. And even like the flashback to like her, when she did like the past 6 months, I was like, wow, that was all in 6 months?
Everything in her eyeball at the beginning, beginning shot was like,
wild, And then like the flashback to, her childhood, and then that happening with her mom. Like, I had no idea her mom was trying to reconnect with her and apologize, and then she had a relapse, and the therapist making the connection between her mom and Rue.
Well, I mean, it's funny because like the therapist was just kind of like replaying what she was telling.
Yeah.
Right. Like she's the one that made the connection. She just pointed it out. Like the therapist just pointed it out. Which is really interesting. I guess that's what a lot of, it's kind of like mental judo, like using your own momentum and like like redirecting you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I can't even remember the Halloween episode if like, did we even question why Rue was being so weird that episode, like during Halloween?
No, I
like,
think it was just she was sober.
No.
She was sober, and like for the first time, she was sober for a while, and it was like, I don't know why Rue was acting like this.
Well, no, it was actually, I remember they revealed at the end that it was a Tyler blackmail, where she had to go to the cops and say she saw this guy show. Right. So it was probably that plus right. This.
You're right.
Right, but like at the end of that episode, we're like, oh, okay, that's why she was feeling it. And for us, we're like, oh, that's it. You know, it is big. It's big enough for her to feel that way, but it was layered on top of all this, right? So okay, yeah.
Oh. Well, I will say I don't have as much to say as I did the previous episode.
No, I like them both. I appreciate them both, but I appreciate them both. Really,
but the other one I had a lot more to say. Maybe because of my background working in addictions, maybe. And just like my sheer, I don't know if I should call it passion, but like my sheer, maybe passion, I don't know, to advocate, for people understanding that addictions is the disease. But this is actually what I was thinking about when watching this, her dialogue about being trans. And like what that's like,
because like
like transparently, I don't know. There's no one in my life who's trans, and so I've never really heard a perspective like this. And I wonder how close it is to Hunter Schafer's real experience, like how she thinks of it as like a spiritual, spiritual experience, and even like centering. Centering femininity around men's desires, because you could see that, like as she was explaining, like as we've gone to know her throughout the season, like that is what she's been doing. So yeah, it's just really interesting, and interesting that like in a way, whether or not she knows it's actually what she wanted, the way that she was desired by men is like. Okay, but never mind. This is too big of an idea. I don't know how to unpack it.
I was settling in. I was like, go on.
No, just that, like, just in my experience as a female growing up and not wanting
that gaze.
Certain, but so interesting to see like that's what she was after, because that's what she thought femininity was, or that's what it was about. Whereas like obviously I've been like a female my whole life, but and I know that's not everyone's experience. I know for other people, and maybe I'm sure like maybe a part of my life too, that when you're feeling so insecure, that the gazes can, like for other women, feel like that's gives you a sense of fulfillment because of the insecurity. But even that piece that she was talking about, like how like women look at other women and compare you, and then like that's what determines how they treat you. I kind of see that in a way.
I mean,
I never thought about it that way, but when she like really broke it down, I was like, do we do that? I mean, I don't do it now, but I feel like maybe when I was younger, like in high school when you're feeling so insecure.
In high school for sure, and that's her context, right?
Yeah.
But like,
what did I do?
I said it kind of as a joke, but kind of like not really as a joke when I
why do you guys do that?
Because it does happen. Like and maybe, and I think she broke it down so eloquently, but I don't know if people who are doing it think of it that
understand
way.
that that's what they're doing.
Exactly.
So that's why I was watching, I was like, is she just telling me what I was doing in high school? like you kind of size up other women to make yourself feel worthy, I guess.
I mean,
feel good
it
enough
happens
to
with guys
be a friend. Oh, okay.
But I'm sure because of like societal expectations and
Always.
pressures,
Always.
it's very different, right? And
Yeah.
like there's added layers there that just it just doesn't go as deep with that, at least in my experience. But for sure, that initial, like you are sizing each other up, and you're trying to kind of understand, like socially, hierarchically, like where does this relationship exist? But then that's kind of where it ends, right? It's like, okay, cool, I understand that. We can kind of check that space and then leave it. But maybe it goes deeper if, like in the experience that Hunter was talking about, like it goes much deeper and to the point where it starts forming your identity, and that you're kind of submitting to it, being like, okay, no, okay, this is what I have to be accepted in this world. And damn, yeah, that's a lot. I'm sure it's a very real feeling for a lot of people, male, female, other, so.
Well, like life can be really lonely, so I can see how it can be like kind of the center of someone's universe to just want to be accepted. And we'll just do whatever it takes. Especially in high school.
That's what I was gonna say. I think that's why having this set in high school is such a good thing. Like, I'm sure it was based off of, like, I don't know. The story is obviously very well thought out, and having it in high school is very intentional. But that layer exists and is magnified so much in high school when you're like discovering yourself or like your self-worth, your identity. You're like a step away from like true independence. And so it's like it's a really great way to explore those kinds of feelings and then force the viewer to step back, which we've had to do and consciously do so many times, and be like, they're in high school. Like, what are we actually thinking when we're in high school? And then it makes all of these kinds of like dumb decisions make a lot more sense.
Yeah, for sure.
So
yeah, way easier to have grace for that. But even like for adults too, easier to have grace when they do what they've done about like telling a backstory. And showing their history and what they've gone through. Like we see it in movies today, like the Joker, right? Like how he became a villain.
Understanding really what somebody that has mental health issues. Like that's really
and he was bullied all his life. Like, anyways, does a good job of just, again, like the last episode, I feel like showing the complexities of addictions. And then this is just the complexity of...
There's a lot of identity here.
I was like, I don't even know where to... Yeah, identity, like there's so much, like it's
identity,
so complex.
Gender, I don't know, like even just kind of like your role in other people's lives, like her, and like how important she was to her mom's sobriety, to Rue's sobriety. So just kind of, just having pressure on you. I like that it was a character exploration for both of them, but in two very different ways. Like it was therapy both ways, but one from like a very like lived experience, peer support way, and one from a professional, tactical, let's examine your life kind of way. And I think it's cool to see it done both ways. And obviously we were drawn more towards that first conversation, but no doubt in my mind that this second conversation would resonate with tons of people too, right? Because of how it was done. It just felt a lot more, I don't know, raw with that first conversation, especially like how like you just use your environment, you bring people into the conversation, and like that part of it was really cool. Yeah,
I think it's always, it's super impactful to hear lived experience stories like that. But I love that this, like I love seeing therapy in shows, movies, just like more in media and stuff. Like it should be normalized. And I hope that through this, people are recognizing that it's beneficial.
Yeah.
Nothing to be ashamed of.
For sure.
But can we just give it up for the dad?
Yeah, honestly.
Real MVP. I can't imagine.
Like so many curveballs that this life has had, right?
Rue's mom, Real MVP.
Was it prom that they got together and they were like having wine together?
Yeah, oh my gosh, can you imagine? Like, whatever they talked about, like, man, they've both gone through it.
I know. Like, even just like in silence, just kind of like a toast
They
to each
understand
other.
each
just,
other,
like,
honestly.
and like then even in those moments, like having the humor, and I don't know if that was in season 1 or if we're talking about season 2 right now. But like when like they're about to leave and they're drinking in front of Rue and she's like, oh no, don't worry, I'm fine. He's like, yeah, we're just leaving, we're waiting for you guys to leave so that we can break out the hard stuff. Like just like, you know, like
Yeah.
just understanding the room and like just kind of
Yeah.
But yeah, he's such a great character, and I don't know if he is an exception or if he's just because like we've seen characters like this in the past where it's like it shows the most ideal of what a person in this role
Sure.
could want in a support or in a parent, and and I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing to show it on something so popular. It's like if it's good because it's like cool, like you can give people hope that this is like the ideal, this is what you can kind of hope for, or it could be kind of off-putting where it's like that's not real. Like I've never seen someone that supportive and it feels like over the top and all that kind of stuff. And we've talked about that. Like I can't remember which show, but there's something. Do you remember that conversation?
No, I don't, but
But
I can't. I'm sure.
yeah,
I'm sure. And
but it's yeah. I like for what it's worth. Like I enjoy the depiction of it, real or not, or. But it's just like.
I don't know. I think like the world is so diverse. Even when talking about something as specific as being a parent of someone who's trans.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone, kind of like parents of children who come out of the closet.
Yeah.
Like very different experiences. I don't know. So I'm hoping that this is like not impossible.
Yeah,
Because he's
and I don't
lovely.
Yeah. I just wonder, like, if you have the opposite experience, does something like this give you encouragement or does it make you feel sad or hurt by, like, not only not having experienced that, but just kind of like, I don't know, would there be like a resentment? It's like, oh, like I wish I had that, or.
I don't know. I guess it just depends on the person and their experience and how they want to project that. But it's kind of like it reminds me of Schitt's Creek, right? Like that was like the first show that I've seen, and probably that a lot of people seen, where
It was just
like being gay. Yeah, it's just like. Yeah, it's not like their characters aren't like, oh, you're gay.
Yeah, it's like saying my favorite color is red. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I like blue.
Or like, yeah, like, because usually you always see like the parents being like, oh, so whatever, right? Like it's not an easy thing to go through for families of like what's been depicted in shows and movies. Whereas in Schitt's Creek, it was like it was just so refreshing to be like it was just like a normal. You don't even bat an eye. Yeah. So that was kind of my sense here with the dad. With the mom, you kind of got the other side, but it was like nice and refreshing to get this side.
Honestly, to have one of these kinds of episodes on him would be interesting. Just kind of like understand what he's been through and how he has to kind of keep it all together, because he's trying. He's still trying, right? Like with not necessarily to like rekindle the relationship with the mother, but like he knows that she's struggling and trying to be okay with that.
Yeah, that was his wife. I don't know if were they divorced?
I don't know.
Like that's your baby mama. Like if you have like a real good relationship, like that's not someone you can just I don't know.
So it would be interesting if they dive into him a little bit more in this mythical third season. But it would be really, really interesting. Yeah. Because I think he's kind of like an unsung kind of, not hero, but just unheralded character within this series, because there's just so many characters that deserve a lot of airtime and focus. But I think he's one that should definitely get some of that too. The
other thing that I liked about this is them delving into her thoughts on Rue, like the pressure that she was going through, and like the implications it would have on Rue's sobriety. Because that's something she really like explicitly talked about until this episode. Because remember we were kind of like guessing like, oh, she probably feels that pressure or the guilt, like she feels trapped.
Yeah.
Into like
That's
having
exactly
to say yes to Rue about everything because anything could like trigger her or like set her off. So it's cool like to actually delve into that here and actually explain that, and then for it to be illustrated in her imagination and like the real fear she has in Rue overdosing or just continuing to use.
And I don't know if it was like necessarily just that. It was her overdosing or doing something like relapsing or whatever because of something that she did. Like it was like the cause and effect of it.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just I don't know. That whole scene was kind of I was struggling with it a little bit because I didn't fully understand why she was going in the opposite direction then. Like, because she also talks about how much she loves Rue and wants to be with her and all these kinds of things. So why the other relationships and why all these other things? And then why feel then like kind of use it to be like, oh, but then I'm gonna feel guilty by doing. Well, yeah, you should feel if you are into somebody and then you should feel guilty. I don't understand.
I think, well, what I was hearing from her about like feeling guilty, it was like saying guilty about like the reasonable things. Like, no, I'm not going to sleep over because it's a weekday or like it's a weekend.
Sure, yeah.
That's what I saw. But I guess I could also see, and it's not to justify it, but just to feel so much pressure and feel so trapped that you feel like you need to step back from that. As much as you love her.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm feeling a little suffocated because, like, it's one thing to love her and it's another thing to be like the only reason why she's sober. Like, that has to be something that Rue needs to figure out on her own. Like, that's a lot of pressure to put on somebody.
Yeah.
So I could see how that would make her feel like I need to like get away a little bit.
I guess. This is a conversation we get into in the last couple episodes of the reaction series here, but just kind of like the artsiness of like the storytelling in particularly season 2 of Euphoria, and how, like, in my opinion, it gets too artsy and it takes away from like storytelling. And this is, for me, it's kind of an example of it. It's like a lot of this was just Jules talking straight from the heart, from her mind, and being very, very clear about her ideas. And then we get to this part where it's like again, like it could have been so effective for her to just say that, to like talk about that instead of, I don't know, this really like, I don't know.
Like, we don't have to watch her orgasm for like 5 minutes.
But that, like, it wasn't only that, it was just kind of like, it caused so much confusion. I'm like, what? Why are you doing this if you feel this way? But like, if you just say it, I think that is strong too. And there are
What do
parts.
you mean if you just say it?
Like her explaining what she's feeling, as opposed to this artsy portrayal of like the inner passion that I have versus the pain that I'm like all of that like you could talk about it and it can be just as powerful and just as strong, and you can have even like B-roll and you can kind of like do all these kinds of things, but it doesn't have to be like, if that's your main vehicle to tell a very important point.
It's not, though.
But in that's
not their main.
No, but in that, I'm talking about that part of the story. They weren't using words. They were doing everything but that. And I think that's what I mean. Like when that stuff is less a compliment and more like the focus, it takes away from the story for me.
I disagree.
Like I think all of those would work amazing as B-roll to her doing a voiceover about like, you know, like
I know
that kind of stuff. And it just like it feels again like I really get into it in like the later episodes, but it's very like
Not necessary.
It feels unnecessary. It feels very like I don't know. It feels like I don't know the right word, like snobby, pretentious. Like it's just really weird for me to be like, I don't know, it's just such a departure from the story.
Okay, I appreciate it because I feel like I understand what it's like to have all these thoughts in your head of what you want to say, but you have no idea how to put it into words. And even if you put it into words, it's not going to come out the way that you want it to. And that layered on top of just not being ready to talk about it. And I think that is so relevant to this being, oh my gosh, what's her name?
Jules?
Yeah, Jules. Her first therapy session. Like you're not gonna, you cannot get into everything. Kind of like when she was like, the therapist asked her a question and then like she didn't say it, but she thought about when she was a child. And her mom, like, remember?
She's like, I'm not gonna get into it.
Did she say that? I can't remember. Yeah, but like that's what she was thinking about. And I think it's totally normal to, but I think it's also totally normal to be in therapy for a therapist to ask you a question and you're just thinking about it. And just like what? Like you're just taken back. Like it's like a question can trigger and put you back into a place that was so emotionally, I don't know, whatever that was, devastating for her and complex. And it'd be difficult for her to talk about that and say it out loud. And so the show, instead of how I saw it, showed these illustrations of how, of what she was feeling. And I think it helps, I don't know, maybe it's not for everyone to just watch a dialogue. Like, because this dialogue wasn't as intense as the previous one, like, in my opinion. And so to have a bit more going on rather than just her talking to her therapist, I feel like maybe they thought was necessary. I don't know, I liked it. I like what it added. I mean, like, I didn't have to watch that much sex, but
I mean, it's always that though. It's like,
it's not always that. It's a lot of that. I don't want to say it's always that.
Okay, but you know what I mean.
But I'm seeing like what she's connecting between like Tyler and like letting go of Rue and feeling the pressure and guilt of Rue using because of her and that potentially leading to an overdose. Like feeling like Rue is like not only letting Rue go, but letting Rue go to die. And it's like her fault.
She said that though. Like, she did say that, and like, but and the thing that you mentioned, that the thing like her being asked a question and we're shown that like a flashback of her like banging on the that's a memory, right? Like that is great. That is that's a beautiful like tool, and like doing that is super effective, and it goes with what like the story is, and it's just kind of like
it does.
So I'm like maybe I can kind of get on board with what you're saying in this setting, in a therapy session. It's her first therapy session. She doesn't know what to say. They do this a lot in season 2 when it's not in this setting, and it's like this part of it, sure, like I don't have the words to kind of put it out there, and I need to like show the audience what I'm thinking, and you know, all that kind of stuff. That's not the same case throughout the season. And it's like,
yeah, you're right.
So like I can get on board with it a little bit, but I still feel like it was just very a vehicle to just shock and awe, as opposed to let's trust in our writing and let's ride with it. So I don't know. As a preview, this is very much the same kind of energy that we have in those last few discussions. Very much on opposite sides of how we feel about how the season goes. So if you enjoyed that, you'll definitely enjoy the rest of our of our discussions. Anything else you want to talk about for these special episodes? Been chatting for a while.
I know. I don't think so. I wish I saw them before we watched season 2. But also, it's kind of nice.
This way too.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
Because
I think it would have worked either way.
The way that we're seeing them now, because we finished it, they work like flashbacks, like any of those little snippets that we had that happened a lot in season 1, where it's like you get those like 2-minute long snippets. Here, it's like
I guess I'm just like so forgetful that it just would have been helpful for me. Like, it's hard for me, like, as I'm watching this, it's almost a distraction to be like, what happened again? Like, trying to think back and like, oh, is that season 2 or is that season 1? Like, it's almost a distraction for me because it all kind of like blends together. So I feel like it would have made more sense for me to watch it right after season 1, but it's still good.
Yeah, I still think it works the way that the timing that we had it with. But
Okay.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, we talked a long time.
Yeah, for sure.
Is what the episode is called?
Yep. That's what it's called.
Yeah, I don't get that.
It's therapy.
Because she talked about her being by the ocean and like.
No,
What?
like the ink blot. I think. Wouldn't it be like therapy? Or...
Oh, a blob thing?
Oh, sea blob.
That's funny.
I thought sea a blob. I'm dyslexic.
Oh no. Yeah, he's not a sea blob. I guess because she's a sea blob.
Isn't it an
She
ocean?
was like by the ocean. Ocean, sea.
It's not the same thing.
Same diff.
Definitely not.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyways.
See, that's another problem I have. No, kidding. Cool. So hopefully you enjoyed watching that one. If you stuck with us all throughout this conversation, you a real one. And we really do appreciate you. As a special surprise, only you would know this if you watched all the way to the end. But we're going to be releasing all of the uncuts for season 2 all next week. So you get to have that information with you. Do with what you will, but everyone's going to see it anyway. So anyway, you have that to look forward to, and you can join in those conversations as well. So hopefully you enjoyed watching that one, and we will see you next week.